Hi, it's Angie, and welcome back to Midlife Magic and Mayhem. Today's episode is incredibly special. It may seemingly step outside the domain of women in midlife creating magic and mayhem, but just wait. I often say if you ever doubt the life-changing impact one person can make, meet Jackson Kaguri. Jackson is the founder of Nyaka, an organization which provides community-based solutions to address the needs of orphaned and vulnerable children in rural southwestern Uganda. Nyaka surrounds each child with a comprehensive support system. This is comprised of interrelated programs such as education, healthcare, and housing, developed and led by the community, where children are nurtured and protected so they can learn, grow, and thrive. In 2019, I ran the New York City Marathon to raise money for Nyaka, and it was one of the highlights of my life. This year, I am running again alongside my husband, Scott, our daughter, Ellie, and my son's girlfriend, Brookelynn. Together with 19 other runners, we make up Team Nyaka, who has had a New York City Marathon entry since 2018, and that's not easy to do or keep. Many of us on this team are repeat runners because of how much we believe in Jackson and the work of this organization. Jackson is a gifted storyteller, and his own personal story is not one that you will forget. Hearing how he approaches creativity, challenges, purpose, life, and contribution to the world is absolutely full of gold, no matter what your age or station in life. This man, this cause, this conversation is full of wisdom and magic. Listen closely. Hi, Jackson. It is such an honor and a pleasure to have you here on the Midlife Magic and Mayhem podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Midlife Magic and Mayhem.
Yes.
I've followed your channel for many, many years and admire what you teach and the guests you bring. So it's an honor and a blessing to be here.
Thank you. Well, as some people may know or not be aware of, you founded an organization called Nyaka. And in 2019, I ran the New York City Marathon, raising funds for Nyaka. We have a team that runs this marathon every year for how many years now?
Since 2018.
Since 2018. So yes, we've been involved for a number of years, and it's just such a highlight. And we believe in you and this organization so much. And I just had to have you on to talk about Nyaka and the work that you do, because it is such an incredible and special story. And one of the things that I tell people when they ask me about Nyaka is I say that if you ever have a doubt that one person can make a huge shift in the world, go listen to Jackson. And I know that you have a lot of people that help you and you have a lot of support out there, but you are one man that has, with an idea, that has created something so unique and special and impactful for so many people. And it's really an honor to know you and to have you here. And I would love for you to give some context about your own story, and then what is Nyaka and how it came to be.
Wow. Now people say, and there's no pressure right here.
You can do it. I promise. You can do anything.
You just set me up. Thank you, Angie. Really been a pleasure to get to know you. It was amazing to run with you, New York Marathon, run on the same course, because we had like 50,000 people, we are everywhere, but to spend a weekend in New York for a good cause. And I'm so thankful that Mark Mahoney Mark Simra, who are good friends of yours, and Noel, good friends of yours, and Scott, that they introduced us to you and what you've done, fundraising, running, promoting, and now even including us in your channel. We thank you. We appreciate you. And now you've set me up that this is the best conversation. I'm going to have to come with my A game. So thank you for having me. I will give it a context. How did all this come? I was born and raised in a tiny village in Uganda. The village is called Nyaka, and so the organization I started 22 years ago is called Nyaka, short of Nyaka. And Nyaka means land of hills. When you have visit, which I'm sure soon you will come, you climb so many mountains and up and down and up and down. In those mountains, rural places of Uganda live wonderful people, including mom and dad who were born and raised in those areas. Mom and dad never went to school, didn't know how to read and write. My mother has since passed away at 94 years of age. My father still lives in this village. They didn't know how to read, but they invested in educating 5 of their children. And Jackson here is the pink baby, the last one of 5. They sent us to school amidst poverty, deprivation, systematic, everything you can think of that people talk of poverty, we faced it, but mostly economic poverty. Based on everything I've heard on your podcast and visits, we'll have to separate that economic poverty and human poverty. People are happy. They live the way they live. They eat the little they eat, but they are the happiest people you can find. But economically, to get education, you had to pay. If you don't pay money, you don't go to school. So those who are the poorest and don't have anything to sell do not send their children to school. And I learned way early, at 4.5 years old, that to come to school, you had to come with a pencil in hand. Every child, before you entered your classroom, the teacher checked, do you have your book? Do you have your pencil? If you didn't have a pencil in hand, the teacher sent you home to get a pencil. And many children, if they didn't have chickens to sell that day, or a goat, or eggs, and didn't have that pencil, their education dream ended right there. My father and my mother figured out we have 5 children. 5 pencils is a lot of money for us. So they would buy 1 pencil like this. And dad would line us up in front of our house, small house, and cut that pencil. 1 for Jackson, the baby, 1 for Christine, my sister, 1 for Faida, my other sister, another 1 for my other sister, and then a brother. We shared a 1/5 of a pencil. And I remember telling you this when we were running a New York Marathon, that we are running so a child can get a 1/5 of a pencil and get an education. Because in 2023, today, children will still drop out of school because they can't afford a pencil. So that's the background story. When you say one man can make a difference, this is what remained in my mind while I was getting primary, what we call elementary school, middle school, high school. I finished university in Uganda. I got a scholarship and came to New York, Columbia University, to study human rights law. And after I finished, my brother, the oldest brother, died of HIV/AIDS at that time. And I'm in New York City, Manhattan, with a decision whether I should go and work at the United Nations, make so much money. I had the whole dream figured out. I was going to marry the most beautiful woman. I was going to buy a red car. I was going to work and make so much money and make sure my parents have a house and everything. When my brother died, it opened my eyes to so many children who were orphaned because of HIV/AIDS. My brother left 3 children Many had passed away and left 9, 10. And I used to go home to visit my parents. These children will come with their grandmothers. When you pass away, your children are passed on to the grandparents to raise. And remember, for my case, my grandparents were already stripped down to nothing because they had spent every penny to educate 5 children. They thought by educating 5 children, they have invested in every aspect of their life. Investment for housing, investment for food, investment for retirement. When our children grow, they will take care of us. So when my brother died, I went back, I packed my bags from New York, went back to Uganda to make sure that my nieces and nephews will stay in school, will have pencils to go to school, their mother will get medication for HIV AIDS. During that period, I also saw a lot of suffering, and I decided I'll build a small school, little school for children who are orphaned because of HIV/AIDS. That's how the organization was born. And for our listeners, if they can go and find this book, A School for My Village, is an entire story. What we are going to talk about is all background story and pictures. This is the school, ladies and gentlemen, mostly ladies, that I built. 2-room classroom, and we will show you later what that dream had become. That's how it started. That's the background. Now, in terms of what Nyaka does, we built this small school. You said it right. I went to the community that made me the man I am. People who carried me on their backs, who fed me. When you hear a saying that it takes a village to raise a child, now you are looking at one. It took the entire village. The children who were sent from school because they didn't have a pencil didn't continue in school. But whenever their chickens grew and they knew that my parents were suffering to get me an extra uniform to go to school, they contributed towards my education. When we didn't have enough food in the house, you walked to the next neighbor. They fed you. When I was coming to Columbia University, the entire village fundraised, bought me a suitcase, gave me pocket money, gave me a pair of shoes so I don't show up in New York and shame the entire village. So I became the right hander for everybody. They all chipped in. And this is the village we built the school for. So I contacted younger people, older people on the village level and said, we are going to put up a school. We need your help. If you have a stone, bring it. If you have a brick, if you have labor, if you have time to come and dig up a foundation, and they all got together. In fact, when this book was published, it was called The Price of Stones. From the biblical reference that the stone that was rejected by the builders became the cornerstone. And our documentary on YouTube is called Cornerstone. So people participated, and we gathered the people and said, let's put up a school. Then what happened? And a school was built. Didn't have windows, didn't have paint, didn't have shutters. We thought we were going to go in a community and find maybe 300 orphans and bring them all to school. We did a needs assessment. There were 5,000 orphans needing to come to that little one school. And now the choice was, how do you choose who comes and who doesn't? That's when I say to the community members, please, you know the people yourself, choose the poorest of the poor. They are all poor in our eyes from American eyes. But the local people know that in Bad's house, they have 3 goats. In Kaguri's house, they don't have a goat at all. So the child who is orphan and lives in Bad's house where they have 3 goats, we bypassed that one and took the one where there is nothing completely. So we recruited 50 students to start in 2 levels, 1 and 2. But as soon as they walked in school, this is where you're going to learn about Nyaka's holistic approach. And when you hear of organizations, you always hear education. Now you hear we built a school, you're going to think it's an education program. No, sir, no, ma'am. The kids came to school, and the teacher we had hired wrote to me and said, Jackson, these children are hungry, have no food. By 10 a.m., they are sleeping. Why? Because they are walking at least 7.5 miles to come to school. By the time they get to school, they are tired, exhausted. It's like they have run the whole New York Marathon. By 10:30, they are all falling asleep. So I said to the teacher, what do we do? I said, we need to give them food. I said, where do we get food? We don't have money. She said, we are going to dig up our soccer field and plant some vegetables. And that started a gardening program. That was 22 years ago. That gardening program has resulted into 120 acres of farming, tree growing, climate change, environmental studies for our organization. The little school you see here, one little school, we built an entire complex, primary school, finished it. Children graduated. We went into another community and built another school called Kutamba. And then we built a secondary high school that's both academic and vocational. So from one little school, we have 3 schools, more than 800 children per year from high school all the way to kindergarten. So now we have education, we have food for the children. We partnered with Rotary International and built clean water systems. We realized our children were walking to school 7.5 miles. The girls were waking up early, and I knew this because I grew up there, to go fetch water 2 miles away. So boy child Jackson, they'll do 7.5 miles and get to school. My sister Christine wakes up at 5 a.m., does 2 miles to get water, carrying that water on her head, gets home, and then adds on 7.5. For her, it is 9.5 miles. Excuse me. Which means by the time my sister reaches school, she's already tired and exhausted. Therefore, she's not going to hear what the teacher is going to teach. And at the end of the semester, she's going to fail her exam. Not because Jackson is smarter than her, but because her circumstances in a patriarchal society are harder to overcome. And then when she gets to puberty, she cannot even go to school because there are no sanitary products. So I told our teachers, together we said, we will recruit more girls than boys. So 65% will be girls because they have more obstacles. We will build clean water systems so girls don't have to go 2 miles. Now boys and girls arrive at the same time at school, have access to food, have access to sanitary products. The nurse who was providing sanitary products, who were buying them, said, but kids have a headache, then they have wounds, and some children were born with HIV/AIDS. So we created a shelf of medication in every classroom. Instead of leaving classroom and go to the nearest hospital, which is far away, we said medication will be right in your classroom. In addition to medication being in your classroom, we will send you with medication to your guardians where you stay so they don't have to keep you at home. Now, people who are staying with our children, encourage them to come to school so they can come back with food from the farm and medication from the shelves in the classroom. That shelf classrooms has resulted into a whole functioning hospital. So the little school, education, food provided, sanitary products, water, and now we have healthcare. Then the children who were walking, we realized there were some who were walking even further, beyond 7.5 miles. So I went to Uganda and walked in the community and spoke to women And all you women who are in the mayhem, this is going to get your juices running because this is the most unique thing you have ever had. I walked house to house and asked women in our community because I knew women love their children, they care deeply. I knew that our community is built on their backbones, but they don't get the credit they deserve. While the men were working or somewhere else hanging out, I was in their homes convincing their wives or those who were widowed that since your home is closer to school, can you house a child? Instead of her walking 10 miles, let her stay Monday to Friday at your house while coming to school. Then on the weekend, they can go back to the home where they come from. And women said, Jackson, are you serious right now? Like, what am I going to feed them? Don't worry about feeding. What about their uniform? Don't worry about it. What about pencils? Don't worry about it. When they get sick, don't worry about it. Then what do you want? I told these women, we want your love, we want your care. Many of them were already grandmothers who I knew as a child that would remind them, remember how you used to give me food when I was hungry? We want you to do the same for these children. Basically, create mini Jacksons. You helped me become who I am. Now we are giving you another generation. And women embraced this, and we called it Grandmothers Program. Those were about 10 women when I walked around. Right now, you've seen the films, you've seen the pictures. We are working with 20,000 women. Now, somebody might say, Jackson has an accent. I didn't hear that number and think it is 20,000. 10 plus 10,000, 20,000. And these women are raising 88,000 children. So when we hit New York Marathon streets, we are not walking and running for 700 students in schools. We are running for 20,000 grandmothers who are raising 88,000 children. These are about 120,000 people that depend on the miles we run, the donors who support, the campaigns that we run, and even better, when we run in New York, side by side, they are running and walking on the same day in the village. I know we'll come to that. So, in summary, Nyaka does education. We still, of orphans now, the number of HIV orphans have gone down, but the number of vulnerable children who still need our help and your help are still there. We educate them, we give them food, we make sure they get health care, we built a library so they can read books. One reason I have continued to write books is because I want children to read books about them and become authors themselves, and we have those. We built an ecosystem to support them with grandmothers, and these grandmothers are economically empowered as business women. Then in 2015, we were visiting Uganda and we found out one of our girls had been raped. We launched a program to put perpetrators, rapists in jail and work with the community to combat. Now, you think that people, there's rape, that is here in the United States, but when we are caught here, you face repercussions. People were getting away, raping a 9-year-old and walk around as if nothing ever happened while you ruined somebody's life forever. We have changed that and changed the mindset of community in a patriarchal society where women are able to report now, girls are able to be safe, the community members are reporting and arresting perpetrators, therefore making our community not only physically livable, but also mentally livable and spiritually livable. So that's what Nyaka does in what I call summary that has turned out to be a long story.
Well, I told you, you take as much time as you want because it is such an incredible story. And one of the things that has always struck me is that whenever there was, let's call it a problem or a need that arose, as you just laid out in the story, let's figure it out. These kids are hungry. Let's get them food. They need medical attention.
Yes.
We'll provide it. Like there wasn't anything, at least in what I hear, there wasn't anything that you didn't just have the mindset of let's figure it out instead of, oh, wow, we can't do that. Right. It's like, no,
Exactly.
let's figure it out.
And part of it, really, what the asset in all of this is the community. This Nyaka organization is community driven. Because for all these 22 years and its success, I've been living in the United States. I've managed long distance, but because the community was empowered to take on issues beyond their control and empowered to run a transparent organization where they see $2 coming, $2 spent on the program. Even those who have no children in school, they are drinking clean water. So it became a community organization. And whenever they said we have a problem, my question was, what do we do about it? And they came up with a solution. And our approach as an office in the United States was not to say no to the people who live with the problems, who experience it every single day. I've had a question. I'm doing a program at Harvard right now for 1 year. And when I was doing a workshop on our approach, somebody said, don't you think what you do is mission creep? Mission creep is when you are formed as an organization to do hair, but then all of a sudden you are doing feet and arms too. You have gone from your mission of doing hair to now to the feet. And I said, our community know what they want. And then the next question was, who are the stakeholders? In a non-profit organization, people refer stakeholders to your biggest donors, who gives you most money. They said grandmothers. And one MBA student said, explain to me, please, how grandmothers are the biggest stakeholders. 20,000 grandmothers, and who you ran for and you're going to run for again. These women are living with 88,000 children. If you calculated how much a child can live in a dormitory, in a camp, in a hotel, at a daycare for one night each, multiply it by 88,000, multiply by 365 days of the year. Who becomes the stakeholder? Who is the biggest donor? It's these women.
Yes.
I can go speak at United Nations. I can go to Korea, to China. I've gone all over the world. I'm flying in a plane, land, speak. The grandmother is carrying the child on her back, going to dig in a garden, come back and feed the child. Make sure they can go to school and come home. In their dreams at night, when they wake up and they can't sleep anymore, they are the ones sitting with them. They are the biggest stakeholders. So we couldn't say no to a child who is raped because it's not our mandate. We added it on. We knocked down obstacles one by one in order to see these children succeed.
What do you think? Because you just said, you've been living in the United States these past 22 odd years, and yet, all this beautiful work is happening in Nyaka, in Uganda. What can we learn here about what your community there is doing? And by we, I mean me, anyone listening, our communities here in the United States, our towns, our cities. What can we learn from what's happening over there?
That's a very good question. With technology, 22 years ago when Nyaka started, I would write a letter put it in the post office, send it to Uganda, send the money via Western Union. It will take weeks to get there. Now we have this. Any one of our listeners can now type in Uganda, type in Nyaka, and learn about these things. But the best way to describe it is to put yourself in the shoes of another person. And people don't support causes around the world most of the time because they don't know. Because I have 4 children. You've met all my children. One of them came and said, "Hello, Aria." They all go to school every day here. They will live less than a mile from their school. They've never walked to school. In the summer, will ride bikes with gears. Their bikes have gears. They have an extra cushion. The road is clean. We don't pay. It is a public school. We pay through property taxes. Because of the system that we live in, most of the time we don't know what goes in around the world. So let's talk about a woman who is in Colorado, where you've moved, in Denver, where you live now. Your typical day, you wake up, you have an interview with Jackson, you get your computer ready, you check your emails, you make sure the schedule on your calendar, Google puts all that together, technology is there, the car starts, it has fuel, Scott is doing something else, your husband is okay, your children are going to school, everything moves fluidly, the day ends. When you think of a woman, same age, in circumstances in the village, by 4 a.m., they are up. The children have to leave the house at 5 a.m. to go to school. They don't have a stove in the house. They have to go make fire on firewood with the smoke. If it rained the night before, that fire is not going to catch. Get that fire, boil whatever they have to boil for the children for their breakfast, make a packet of food for the child to go. Then they go 3 miles to the far away place to dig. The manual, what I go to do in a gym, they go in the mountain, dig, grow food, harvest it, carry it on their head. By the time they come home around 5 p.m., they are tired, they're exhausted, but they still have to make that fire and make food. They have a husband. Let's take an example of Scott. He's not supporting them or digging with them. The man is sitting somewhere drinking with his buddies. That's what my father did. He gave us all the do this, and left. When he comes, you, the wife, must have finished cooking, ready food for him and for the children, and his water to bathe. So the life is so difficult. From break of the day, everyone goes to sleep. The woman is the last one to sleep. She sleeps around 12 after everyone else has gone and wakes up at 4. This is the life my mother lived until we finished school and were able to build her house and pay for people to dig her garden. Her back was out by 61 and she died at 94. And my mom's back was out because of carrying the babies, going to dig every day, and raising 5 children. No woman should go through that at a time when we can do something better. And if they do, at least their children should not repeat the same cycle. So we are breaking the cycles, giving a little income to a woman so they can sustain their family, so they can have salt in their food. I don't think there's a single American family that has ever struggled to buy salt. The food is even oversalted.
Completely oversalted. That's so true. Oversugared, oversalted.
It already has salt. But when you harvest vegetables and you cook them and you can't add in salt because you can't afford it, that's dehumanizing. When you have to tell your children that we can't eat tonight because where we were expecting to get money, it's not there. Their father is dead and you're sitting with the children and can't feed them. That's dehumanizing. When I go to New York, I will sit down and have a glass of wine, have dinner, and my bill is going to be $80, $120. $1 of that will feed a child a whole meal with a soda on the side, which soda they do not get. So it is a matter of knowing. When people know, they support. And that's how Nyaka has become Nyaka Global. I go around the world explaining what it takes. When I go in elementary schools and children learn that I use the fifth of a pencil and it's still a problem. On my front porch, boxes of pencils. Mr. Kaguri, we had children don't have pencils. Please take pencils for them. People give, young, old, middle, because they understand it's going to make a difference. But what we also do as an organization to be accountable. That's why I write books. The latest book I've written is about COVID. Before the government of Uganda mandated mask wearing when COVID started, our students had already been taught and they made masks themselves. These are made by themselves. We make sure that they are not seated there waiting, oh, I hope somebody makes a donation so I can go to school. No, they are working every day. They are helping their grandmothers to make baskets and beads so they can sell. So this problem will be solved and the whole thing will be flat. Then we'll be talking about markets, cryptocurrency, and investments, and how to move forward rather than get people out of deep poverty of less than $1.
Speak a little bit more about the grandmothers and the how you're also teaching them and educating them about making money. And if I recall correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they have an Etsy shop. Is that still true?
Yes, they do.
And you're teaching them about money and economics and,
listen, most of the things I've done, I draw examples from my own mother. Like I said, part of building that hospital also was personal. When I was 11 years old, I fell from a tree, a story that is in here too. And I started breathing from that tree. They carried me in hands because there's no ambulance, no bicycle at the time. This was 1979. By the time I got to the hospital, everyone thought I was going to die. Everybody, including my mother and my father, except one woman, my grandmother. My grandmother said my son is not going to die. She called me husband, which freaked me out. Like I'm supposed to be a husband of this wrinkled grandmother of mine. Boyfriend, husband, come give me a hug. And she would squeeze me so hard. When I fell, I am 9 years old, she said, my husband, my boyfriend, my son is not going to die. She had faith. This grandmother of mine believed in me, and I've never forgotten it. I'm breathing, I'm in a hospital, there is no anesthesia. They are cutting through my leg without putting me down. It is 3 days after the fall because the doctor was not there, and my grandmother believed in me. During that period of time, she walked from home to that hospital every single night for 6 months. And she would come with the Bible in her hand, with a finger in the book of Psalms. She would open the book. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. The whole chapter. Do it and cover the book and say, I will see you tomorrow. And I will start crying. Please, Grandma, keep reading. So until I sleep, I know until tomorrow. 6 months. This is a place that has no street lights. She didn't have a torch or a flashlight. She didn't have any. She walked in the dark every single night for one grandson out of 26 she had at the time. When I left the hospital, I asked Grandma, why? And how did you do this? But first, I found out she didn't know how to read. For 6 months, I was fooled, thinking grandmother was reading to me. But grandmother was reciting what my grandpa had read to her the entire day. My grandpa read to her over and over and over until she knew how to recite it. And I knew how to read. I started out following. I saw it in the local language. So, why, grandma, why did you do this? And she said, God created you for a purpose, Jackson. And until that purpose is fulfilled, you're not going to die. Was my lesson number one. I'm still waiting to see what that purpose is. Number two, I thought, if grandma doesn't know how to read, how come grandpa know how to read? Because women do all the bulk of the work. Men have time to learn hobbies. A grandfather who never went to school self-taught himself with his buddies how to read because he had time on his hands while my grandmother labored every day to feed the family. Two, then I realized when this whole started, if we can get grandmothers to look in the eyes of their grandchildren and encourage them, that word, you're not going to die, was enough for me to hold on, even when they were cutting through my leg, because I didn't want to disappoint the grandmother. And look what has got me. So when we started working with grandmothers, I know we are supposed to talk about the economic, how they make money. I said, thank you for the work you do, but some of you are still active. You can weave. Weaving is something they did. When they took you, you're going to marry Scott, you had like 3 months of fattening. This still happens in some communities. You don't do anything except sit in a room, get ready to be pregnant and give birth. During that time, you are taught like making cheese out of milk. Most of them are taught how to weave, make baskets, bracelets. So we asked the women who already knew how to do this to teach other grandmothers. And they said, we don't know how to do that, neither do we have capital to buy materials to weave. That's when I started a fund called the Nyaka Fund. I asked a few donors, if we get little money, we can give $20 to each woman, and they will make baskets and beads and jewelry and different things. But where are they going to sell them? Said, every bead and basket you finish, and we have those, every piece you finish, Nyaka will buy, will pay you the price, and will bring them to United States. So whenever I came to Cherry Creek High School, where some of our runners are from, I will come with baskets, sell them for $10, $5, or give them away, and people begin to use it as a story. So we started with weaving. Then women said, what if I want to raise pigs and chickens and goats? So we started a fund. That fund has become a huge microfinance fund. And now, and we have a bank, Nyaka Microfinance Bank. For the first time, we changed the government law to allow women to sign on their own bank account, to own land, to own a house without a husband or a male figure signing on. So we have economically changed the trajectory. When I say 20,000 women, they are all entrepreneurs. Nyaka Etsy shop has baskets of all colors, has beads and bracelets of all colors that anyone can go and shop. And eventually, we hope to get them in retail shops and grow their business as they continue to grow.
Beautiful. I love that. And I wish I would have thought earlier, because I have so many of the little baskets dotted all over my house. And I
Yes,
don't
me too.
have, I can't believe I didn't have one ready to show, but I have, they're all
I,
upstairs, but I have so many.
I, have,
And,
I have one of the big ones.
ooh, yeah,
They
that's,
make some that you can put laundry in, but they make little ones with colors.
yeah, the
To
little
the
ones are great.
extent, yeah, we are now partnering with several high schools around the country, and that's the other something else people can do. They talk to your high school in your community, we are partnering with high schools, and some of them, because of sports and colors and what, we are making baskets in the colors of those high schools to use as fundraisers to raise money for different causes they are espousing, because every high school has honor society service. So we partner with service organizations, service students who are looking for credits, or just sell them baskets.
Mm.
At one time, we made 2,000 baskets in green and white, which is Michigan state colors. And the president bought all of them and started giving them as gifts with MSU written in those baskets. So
That's
grandmothers who can't
amazing.
read, they can do it.
That's amazing. Well, it's just the whole idea of, like we said earlier in the conversation, like if a challenge arises, it's not a no, it's a what can we do here? What can we do about this? There's always possibility to be learned. And I just think there's so much gold in this conversation that we can all take in our just in any part of our own lives and learn from, and it's just gorgeous. What's if you can pick one story of a child that was particularly special either to you, or they came from a place and then went on a trajectory that was just above and beyond, and if you have an example of like a story of a child that you can share with us, I would love to hear that.
Oh yeah, I have so many,
I
as
bet.
you know.
Yeah.
8,000 children, 22 years later, they are
Yeah.
so many. In
Yeah.
fact, when you see uh, A School for My Village, next book after that is called Victory for My Village. Oops, sorry. Victor, my computer is acting up now. Victory for My Village is tells you when the kids began, where they were when I wrote it, and most of them had finished university, the pioneer students. So let me tell you a story about a young man called Hillary. Hillary is both boy and girl name. In Uganda, it's mostly boy name. So when you say Hillary Clinton, they go, oh, there are two. No. Boy Hillary. Hillary lived with a grandmother, and I wrote that story in this book on page 111. That tells you how many times I've said this story.
Mm.
When Nyaka started, Hillary's grandmother came to me and said, here is a small paper which somebody had written for her in form of a will. And she handed me that will with her finger on. Because if you can't write, they put your finger in the ink and you put it on a paper. That's your signature. It had that. I still have that paper. It said, I have a small hut, a house, grass-thatched house. When I stand to throw water from my pans after cooking, I throw it in somebody else's land. That's how small the land she was living on. She had two grandchildren, Hillary and the sister. She had birthed 9 children, and they had all died one by one. The older grandchildren had already left the home. Those two were still living home. Said, Jackson, my son, when I die, I'm going to die a happy woman, knowing that my children are in the hands of Nyaka. This is 2002. I took that paper, put it into still emotional talking about it.
Mm.
Hillary went to school at Nyaka wearing his purple uniform, didn't concentrate in education, didn't think it would be anything. When he was finishing primary school, I sat with him and said, Hillary, your grandmother gave me this, read it. And he read it and cried and went and hugged grandmother. He said, if you don't work hard and concentrate in school, you're going to end up being a porter who carries other people's bags rather than the teacher who teaches others how to be successful. I said, I know you are smart. You can do it. All you have to do is concentrate. If you don't want to do it for you, do it for your grandmother. From there, the next year, Hillary was second top student in class. Hillary now has graduated from medical school. He's the first doctor from our program to have an MD. Hillary's grandmother, ladies and gentlemen, is still alive. She's more than 100 years old, wrinkled, can't see properly, can't walk properly, but she has seen a grandson wearing a white coat with Dr. Hillary Nwadine on his chest. During COVID, all expatriates in Uganda had to leave back to their countries. What we do is not just NGO donate go. We are empowering communities that will sustain themselves. And we saw this in COVID. When expatriates left, Hillary was in fourth year of his medical education. I told him, pack your bags while buses are still going and go home. You're going to be in charge of our hospital. All the students who were in preparing to be nurses, anybody who had ever been in a lab became staff members. Hillary led them, managed the hospital. When vaccines started coming, Nyaka vaccinated more people than any other hospital in the region because Hillary speaks the local language. Hillary went on the radio every week explaining to people and grandmothers how it is important to be vaccinated. That is something I didn't see coming. And that is a success story. And there are 88,000 Hillarys. There's a lawyer in a girl called Sarah who is now working for the biggest bank in Uganda who graduated from Nyaka. The best student when we graduated the first class from university, best student became a nurse in Uganda. She was in the newspaper. That's a big deal. Is our former student. The person who is building teachers' quarters right now at vocational secondary school is a young man who was born with HIV/AIDS, has lived with HIV/AIDS. Our hospital has given him medication up to now. He's married thanks to medication. He has a son who does not have HIV/AIDS, and he's the main contractor for all our buildings. Engineer Dennis Ojisha. I can go on and go on. 10 teachers in our schools are our former students. When you select, you want to do sponsors child, and we team you up with another child in Uganda, the person who coordinates the technology, the pictures, the videos, the Zoom, former student, graduate in finance. A young girl who got pregnant while she was in senior 5, which would be the year before college, is in Canada, in Vancouver, finishing human resource degree. Each of these children, and when they finish school, they will never be poor again, and their entire lineage of family has changed. Because I was the last born, so that's why I went for the whole community. If I was the first born in my family, I would have started with my sisters and my brothers first before community. It just expands slowly. So all these children are philanthropists. And something else we do, so people know if they want to write $1 million now and say, will you ask me $1 million next year again? No, we won't. When you invest that money, it's invested in human capital and the problem is solved. We will work ourselves out of Nyaka as an NGO. Maybe we focus on climate change as we solve problems. But as we empower these children, their grandmothers are out of poverty, they are gone, graduated. Families that started in our grandmother's program, women come to us and say, we don't want any more money. There are more women in that community that need you more than we do. Now they can afford salt. Now they have a motorcycle. I'll tell you another success story for grandmother and then keep quiet. One grandmother who, uh, in a road area on, learned how to use machines, tailoring machine. So she started making uniforms. She made shirts. She made some money. She's still married, has a husband who used to beat the heck out of her when we were growing up. We all knew at some point in the night, you go, hi! And you knew that man was beating the wife, and then people will come and take the wife, and then she'll go back. They are still together. When she joined the program for grandmothers, the husband wrote to us and said, Jackson, you grew up around here. You know our culture. Now you are beginning to destroy who we are by making our wives not respect us. And I went and sat with him. He's elderly. As a person growing in the culture, you have to respect your elders. And explained to him step by step what was going on. The good news, the wife had already bought plastic chairs in the house. So we were seated on the chairs, which were bought by the wife from the money she earned from uniforms and dresses she was making at the shop. Her name is Rose. I said, Silver, you know, oh, now I've said the name. I said, you know, the chairs we are seated on were purchased from the earnings of money that your wife made doing the work we do. Said, yes. Said, you know, your children now have soap to wash their clothes. Your grandchildren you live with have milk every morning to drink. So nutrition, economic, I know she buys you clothes. I know she fixes your clothes. I know she's adding value in your house. Said, what we are trying to do is to build a system where there is dignity in the house, where there is basic needs met in the house. Right now, as we speak, she bought him a phone. She invested in buying motorcycles for business and bought him a motorcycle to do business every day and do earning. Their oldest grandson has a motorcycle from her earnings. She has a shop. Now she sits outside her shop like this, answers her cell phone. Honey, can you come pick me up? The day is done. They are in love. We should be paid now for restoring dignity, for people getting to love each other because they are not fighting about money. His frustrations of I cannot provide for the family were leading him to violence.
Mm.
Then people would buy him alcohol, and then he would get these psychophonic mental issues that he doesn't understand. We have social workers who work with men in our communities now. Why do you feel like beating your wife makes you a man? Oh no, that's what I learned from my grandfather. This trauma that has been passed on and is not healed continues to haunt our people.
Mm.
So we are now even in psychology. We are now in therapy. We are now helping men to realize what a man actually is and what their daughters are observing and what they want for their daughters. When we talk to police, we say, look at your own children. How would you feel if your girl was the one raped? What would you do? The same empathy is what you want to use when another girl comes, rather than they cannot pay the fee to go to record them in a book, go away. So we have changed the mindsets, we have changed the economic trajectory, we have restored love. We should start a channel. How we
I
need
think
to
you're right.
restore love. How we can restore love in these communities. It's
Yeah,
amazing
I
to
mean,
see.
it really is. I mean, all that you've just said, there's just so much in it that these small, what seem to be, or they're not, they're all big, but what can seem to be small incremental steps, small incremental changes have these long tentacles that go out in the community, empowering one woman
Exactly.
can heal an entire lineage of people. This one woman that you
Yeah,
just spoke of who bought the plastic chairs and she was able to buy a cell phone and motorcycles. And now the couple is in love. They're not fighting anymore. They're empowering one woman or one child across the world from where I sit right now has long
yes,
tentacles. We are talking about it right now. That's how far
that's
the
right.
reach is. And who knows who's going to listen to this and be touched by it and make changes in their own community. So when people ask me, why Uganda? Why this, we're in the United States, like why not something here? I'm like, what's the difference? There's no difference.
That's There's no difference, and also the part of the why. When if I get $5 and walk down the street right here and give it to a homeless person, they look at it and say, "That's it."
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Because $5 is not going to change their lives.
yeah.
The best they can do is wait until Tuesday when McDonald's has a sale and buy $1 burger. But when I take that same $5 and hand it to a grandmother or a child in my village, a whole week of food is now provided. So part of that why is also how we stretch that
Yes.
dollar.
Yes.
But you ask, we are in a global village. Well, the several courses I've taken at Harvard, this cell phone we hold, the chips are made out of cobalt from Congo.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to ask questions why, then why are you holding a cell phone that has cobalt from Congo? Take it out and you have no function.
That's right.
Take out the uranium in nuclear weapons, and then government of United States has no weapons to defend itself. We are all one. There's no reason why our nuclear weapons can be powered by uranium in ravaged Congo, while children of Congo can't even drink clean water.
Mm.
That takes only 1 cup of Starbucks. I mean, last time I checked, many people who go to Starbucks to buy coffee don't even finish the cup. They drink halfway, it gets cold, and they throw it away. You know how I know? Tabitha drinks Starbucks a lot. Yeah, I don't
Oh,
remember.
I've done it. I mean, it's ridiculous.
No, we all need coffee halfway. $5. So when people ask you, nah, Jackson, I understand him, but I don't know how I can make a difference. Give up Starbucks. 1 cup a
Mm.
week. That $5 will put a child
Mm-hmm.
food on her table, his table for a whole week.
Yes.
Multiply it to a computer, Mac computer that I'm using. Woo! Now you have a teacher who makes $80 a month to
Mm.
teach entire classroom. Now you have an investment of $20 that changes the trajectory of somebody forever.
Yeah.
Not let's give them food, then when hunger comes back, they're hungry again. No. Rosemary and her husband will never be poor again.
Mm.
Because the children who are in their household now are graduating from school. Now they have an income stable from 3 different sources. Husband is making money, grandson is making money, he's going to get married soon, and Lords is still making money. Now, easy money. She doesn't have to do what my mother did, leaning there, pulling stuff, hurting her back. She's seated. In fact, now I need to start worrying about high blood pressure, exercise, eat health.
That's right. No, yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, Jackson, let's talk a little bit about the marathon.
Yes.
And I will be running. You're not running this year, correct?
No, I'm not running this year. I ran
Okay.
half in March.
That's right. That's right.
I'm the leader.
Okay. Yes,
I'm the
definitely.
leader.
So on November 5th, myself, my husband Scott, my daughter Ellie, and my son's girlfriend Brookelyn, we will all be running the New York City Marathon on November 5th, wearing the Nyaka t-shirt, wearing our green toboggan if we've still got those, um,
Yes.
along with a lot of other people. There's a whole team. How many people are on the team this year?
23 people.
23. That's amazing. So we are all raising funds, raising money, and every single dollar goes to Nyaka. It goes to the children. It goes to the grandmothers. It goes straight there. And as we've all heard over these past minutes, how important this organization is and the beautiful work that is being done. So it's just such an honor to be running for Nyaka again. I'm just so excited. And, you know, people asked me the last time I ran, gosh, you're doing all that running. Doesn't it get boring? Like, oh, and the training and that. And I tell you, and I feel the same way this year. I love every single minute because it's not about me. It's not about me. I'm just running. Like whatever. Like, yeah, okay, fine. I'll just go run. It's not about me. It's about something so much bigger. And it, like, that the training I don't even think about it. And I love every minute because I'm picturing these people and I'm picturing these women and these children and all the stories that you tell. And I think about you and I think about our team and what we all do together. And it's just really special.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know, you talk about the team, you know, we have Sherry Henry out of New York and Mark Mahoney and Noel Mahoney, who are the chaperones. These are the three who actually got us in New York Marathon as a charity partner in 2018. And we have been lucky to have good volunteers, good spaces in New York to gather on Fridays. It's a whole weekend affair, and I'm so glad your daughter Ellie's running, and you have another relative and Scott. 4 people from your family who are all coming. Thank you for doing that. I've done it 3 times. I did 2019 with you, and I did then when I turned 50 years. Well, it was supposed to be 2020 because of COVID. I did it on virtual here in Michigan. Then I went and ran the 50th. And for those of you who are going to run, I know you're going to watch this. If you've never run New York Marathon, it's the best marathon in the world. You are my testimony. We start on Staten Island. People are cheering, messages are written, choirs are singing, mass choirs there, churches have open doors. They are being cheered on, water is available, medical is available. I've enjoyed every step running that New York Marathon every year. But also, what you said earlier, the fact that people wake up in Uganda and run. I remember the year we ran, early in the morning, I woke up and got all the pictures from Uganda. Because by the time you wake up in New York, they are finishing there. And I sent it in our group. There was this woman with her stick, a grandmother, walking her mile so we can be in solidarity. That story made it on ABC News. They interviewed me on mile 12. Those pictures were incorporated in, and that is how powerful emotional connection we get with our sisters, our mothers, our grandmothers, people we love. So it's not just running, it's empowering, it's giving a cause, and they are not sitting back saying, oh, let them run finish so we can receive the money. They are participating with you, they are cheering with you. So if you're a runner who wants to participate, there's more future runs in the future. We have Matt out of Colorado in your neighborhood who is running the 4th consecutive marathon for Nyaka. If your company matches, or you know somebody who can donate, please share the link. Angie is our star fundraiser because she talks about it. People raise more money because the cause is talked about. If you just run and just write your one check and keep quiet, we don't get more people to learn about this. So, women of mayhem, send it around. Come and run. Come and support. And when you get a chance, please come to Uganda.
Mm.
We will show you in person what has been done. You will meet the most amazing, happiest people you will ever meet, and you will see the transformation, infrastructure we have built around. Grandmothers have solar power now because of Cherry Creek High School in Colorado. Grandmothers now can make a phone. We can even do an interview with a grandmother in Uganda via Zoom if we arrange it. Yes, we can. Technology is improving, so now we can have transfers. I sit here in my house in Michigan and send my father money every month using an app, phone to phone. So grandmothers will eventually know how to transact, how to participate in businesses in Colorado, in Charleston, and all over the world.
Mm.
My life commitment is to change as many lives, economically empower women and children so societies can thrive and live the life they desire to live. And we are now doing it through running. 20 are the ones we have, but we have 3 who had not run before, had already paid and fundraised. So the 3 will also join us. And we all meet November 5th. Mark your calendar. Come, enjoy. Saturday, we run a 5K from United Nations Central Park, which is a good family event. Then Sunday, I will be on the streets cheering so loud for all our runners. We make sure they have Apple shirts that can stand out. It's a great event, and we are so thankful that you are dedicating yourself again to run, training to run, and please continue posting. We'll share your posts, and we'll raise tons and tons of money for the women and children we serve in Uganda.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll be posting all the links to learn more about Nyaka, links to my fundraising page, uh, just all the links about everything that we can point to so people can learn more and donate. And I'll be posting all about my training when we're out, and I've already started doing that some. uh, Ellie's so excited. My daughter's excited. We're all just thrilled to be a part of this. We were talking about it last night. As a matter of fact, my son and his girlfriend were over for dinner. We were all talking about it, and we talk about it all the time, as a matter of fact. And it's just, it's a, I keep saying it, but it's just a really special event. It's a special organization, and we all love it so much. I know it's made tremendous, being involved in this organization, being involved in the running, it's made such an impact on my life and me personally. And I'm just so grateful for the opportunity to be doing this again and to be in a body that works, that has me be able to do this again. And I don't take any of that lightly. I mean, I'm sincerely serious about this. I don't take it lightly, and I don't take what we're running for lightly. And it's a devotional cause for me. And I'm just honored to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And you can run a promotion, or we'll send you some of these books to give away to your listeners,
Yeah.
depending on how you want to give them away. Let us know how many, and we'll ship them over for them
Fantastic.
to get the story. Yep.
Beautiful. Well, Jackson, thank you so much for spending this time and for telling these amazing stories and for all of the work that you do and have done and will continue to do for NACA and for all those hundreds of thousands of people at this point. And it's just it's a real demonstration of what's possible in our world. And I thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me, for hosting me. And again, we started with a fifth of a pencil. If anyone ever thinks you can't make a difference in the world, remember the power of a fifth of a pencil. That's how my journey started, and here we are. And I'm so glad it continues to inspire me, but also to inspire millions around the world to make a difference. The power is within us. Everyone can do it. And You've done it, Angie.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jackson. He is a delight and one of my absolute favorite humans on the planet. I have included several links in the show notes to Nyaka, to Jackson's Instagram, to Nyaka Instagram, to the short movie called Cornerstone, which he referenced in the episode, which is on YouTube. It's a 42-minute movie all about Nyaka. So you can really see and hear and get a feel for what the organization does. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous movie. I highly recommend watching it. And I've also included the link to my fundraising page for the New York City Marathon. I'm going to raise at least $4,000 for Nyaka for this 2023 New York City Marathon run. So any donation is welcome. I'll be posting more about this. I'm going to be posting all about my training. It's such an honor to be included on this team and in this run. Every single second, every footstep that I take in this training is worth it. It's so much bigger than me. And that's what drives me. That's what moves me. And as Jackson said, also in this conversation, not only will we be running in New York City on the streets on November 5th of this year, but there will be many, many, many people in Nyaka, in the village itself, running a marathon and running the same day that we are in solidarity. This is such a special group. He's such a special man. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please share with your friends and raise money for this important organization. And thank you for listening. Please subscribe to the show. Please follow me, Angie.bird, on Instagram. And thanks for all that you do.